Hi, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Meatgistics podcast brought to you by Walton's. Today, we have a very special guest. We've got Mitch Petrie from, well, pretty much everything. He's an executive producer, has worked for Sportsman Channel, Sportsman's Outdoors, our great friends, Ron Shera. He's also got Muddy Boot Productions, and he also is a big fan of country music and is involved in that. So we have yet another guest that just seems to hate free time. Mitch, how are we doing today?
I'm doing very well, but you could also say that, I've married that passion with my profession, so everything feels like free time.
Yeah, what's the saying? Follow your passion, you'll never work a day in your life. Now, that can have two meanings. It seems like you got the right meaning, where it's just doing kind of what you wanted to do anyways.
For sure. I think one of the best compliments I ever received on Instagram or Facebook was an old friend saying, "Man, you sure look like you're enjoying retirement."
Yeah, it's not a bad way to live life. I'm lucky enough to get to do a lot of that as well. I have always liked cooking, and I get to spend a lot of time in our kitchen here making up awesome sausages, things like that. So a lot of times it doesn't feel like work.
For sure. I'm a better eater than I am a cooker. I'm pretty good at cooking too, but I've been eating a lot longer. So, and my cooking entertainment experience is relatively new, but we can talk a little bit about that if you'd like.
Didn't I see something with you in Kansas City wild game cook-off?
Yeah. So I have a customer, Chad Belding from The Foul Life. So first, a very quick background. I do run programming for Outdoor Channel. That's my day job. That's my 40 hours a week job. And that's what I actually get paid for. But I work with a lot of the independent producers, a lot of the big names that people have heard of, Lee and Tiffany Lukowski, Michael Waddell, Will Primos. And then Chad Belding from The Foul Life, who is, big time into cooking and wild game. And he has a brand called The Provider, where he does a lot of products, and he did a cookbook. But I was actually on my way to New Mexico for an elk hunt, my first ever elk hunt. And I was a guest of Will Primos. And I jumped in my truck and I drove 6 hours straight to Kansas City to that event you're talking about, which is apparently like the Super Bowl of barbecue. And Chad Belding was there. And so I ended up sitting down with him and walking around, and was very surprised to learn that you can't actually buy food there. There's no vending going on. It's all just a professional show, which was a problem because I was on my way to see another TV producer, Tom McMillan, who lives in Kansas. And my commitment to Tom was to show up at dinner time with barbecue from that event. So I had to improvise, and like somewhere between Topeka and wherever it is he lives, I'll think of the name in a second. I found a barbecue restaurant and picked up dinner and brought it in, but it wasn't from the what do they call it, the Grand Prix or the World Championship.
Yeah, well, we have some really good Kansas barbecue joints just in any small town here, especially in that northeastern area. They take it very seriously up there.
Yeah, this was in Stafford, Kansas.
Okay,
which is it's essentially a co-op and a gas station, and Tom McMillan. So, but I found it was good, and it turned out to be a place that's within like 45 minutes of their house. So they were aware of it, and I think it's a favorite date night location for them. So it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I just spent some time in very rural Kansas, and your options are limited out there to a good amount. But we have some amazing pheasant and quail hunting, great deer hunting, so it's hard to complain. You mentioned elk. I can see those behind you. Is that from your biggest elk or first elk? What is that?
So that's my first elk.
Okay.
And it's also the last elk that I have. So last year, I didn't get one that time going down to New Mexico. I had some great encounters and had a really impressive swing and a miss on one. Where I was sitting down and I had Will Primos call one in, and we thought it was going to circle around us, but it came right to this 32-yard bush that I had ranged. And for some reason, I put my 20-yard pin on the elk and shot right under it.
Oh,
a little bit of a brain fart. But last year, I ended up going on a rifle hunt in Utah, and shot a decent bull elk. And that's the horns over my shoulder there. I don't know what it would score, probably in the high 200s. But it was a great hunt and first elk. And I'll tell you what, it's been just over a year, and all I have left of it is some ground burger. But all the steaks and roasts and everything went to very good use.
Yeah, one of the things people ask us a lot is, hey, what should I make out of this, that, or the other thing? And I tell people with elk, it's almost a shame to make sausage out of any big cut of it because elk is so tasty on its own.
Right.
I had never had moose, and I'm now learning that moose is even a step above elk. It is incredible.
Yeah.
I see it as almost like how much more I enjoy elk than deer. That's how much more I enjoy moose than elk.
Right. So I actually just coming off a hunt from Saskatchewan, and it was on a reservation there. And we were hunted for 5 days, and we were hunting whitetail. And it just didn't work out. We had full moon, and it was like 65 degrees most of the time we were there during the day. And so the deer they just weren't moving. And towards the end of the hunt, we're with the Sweetwater tribe up near Battleford, Saskatchewan. So
Okay.
it's about 90 minutes outside of Saskatoon. One of the outfitters, or the outfitter, had actually located a small bull moose that they were going to harvest for the tribe for the winter. And they said, if I'd like to shoot it, I could do that. And I'm like, okay, that would be kind of cool. I think the downside would have been, I don't think I got to keep any of that meat. Maybe they'll give me a backstrap or something as a token of appreciation, but I wouldn't want to take away from feeding the tribe. So we actually stopped my deer hunt. We went to this location where they had found this bull moose, and I set up on this moose on a hillside 300 yards away for about 45 minutes. I had my crosshairs kind of on his head and neck area, but it was 300 yards. There was a big crosswind, and there was just a little bit of brush between me and him, and we were waiting for him to move. But he didn't move. He figured nobody saw him, so he's just standing there. And then eventually he moved over a little bit and started to turn and go off. And I never got a safe, ethical shot on him, so I opted not to squeeze the trigger. But I almost shot my first moose. And I would tell you, the whole time I was thinking of it, I was like, man, I hope I get to at least taste it, and maybe at least a little bit of it. But it's definitely a bucket list hunt for me. I'm going to go somewhere and do a moose hunt before I die, God willing.
We just had Dan Starks. Dan does a lot of work with Passing On Outdoor Mentors, and he gets up to Canada a couple of times every couple of years. And he brought some moose that he had harvested. Absolutely incredible. But man, those are scary animals. The people who go after them with bows, that's a whole different. I'm not doing that.
It looks like a Volkswagen minibus, with on toothpicks. They look real lanky, right? They're super, super tall, and like seeing at 300 yards, I could see the muzzle. I saw another moose while I was deer hunting at a different stand, and it wasn't one I was going to shoot. And in fact, it was not even on our property. It was on an island on this river. It was about 300 yards away, and I was looking at it through my binos, and just to see the size of the muzzle, I mean, it looked like the muzzle was longer than my arm. I'm excited to do that hunt someday, and we have a lot of talent on our networks that will do. They'll try to do an annual moose hunt. Sometimes they mix in a sheep hunt or something. But Pat Reeve with Driven TV, he does a lot of moose, and I've seen him. It's I think they're grueling hunts, and I would love to do that. I'd love to go up to the Yukon or Alaska and spend 10 or 12 days out looking for one.
Yeah, and the pack out from that is just crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
you have to be in tip-top shape to get that done. You mentioned sheep. Is that something that you've done?
No, I've done a mouflon sheep, which is just a Texas exotic.
Okay.
So no, that's not like British Columbia up in the mountains. This was drive the ranger out to the middle of nowhere and find the sheep and harvest one. It's pretty cool. I actually have it here. I did a European mount on it.
Oh wow.
So that was my It's not a bighorn, it's a mouflon exotic, but it was pretty cool. Interesting table fare, I'll tell you. It was not like eating moose.
I've heard that. I've heard
Try
it.
to be respectful of the quarry.
Yep.
It's an acquired taste, I would say, but you're right. Like the gaminess in wild game. Venison. I think when you cook it properly, and probably more importantly, when you prep it in the field, right, and take care of
Yep.
that meat, it can be very good. But it's still, I think, even the best venison has a distinct venison taste to it. But I would tell you the elk that I serve to my friends and family, I tell them that it's wild game, but they're always blown away. Like there's just no gaminess to it. I've done a lot of sous vide cooking
Okay.
with wild game of late. I think it just really helps keep it moist because it's always so lean. It has a tendency to get dry faster, but sous vide allows me to kind of cook it in a edge to edge perfection, medium rare, which I think is probably how you should always cook wild game. Anything beyond that's going to get a little bit like leather.
Yep. Now, the sous vide is something we played around with a good amount in the last 5 or 6 years or so. Wild game cooking absolutely has its place. In my opinion, the real advantage of it is just you can't overcook it. Like there's nothing you're going to do to get it beyond the temperature of that water. So it's a little bit of a cheat code. There's some problems with the bark and the crust. Do you want to talk about that?
I've never mastered that.
Yeah.
That's the other thing is I haven't. So I don't have a torch. I guess I could bring a torch and try to torch it as well. And you can maybe do like a reverse sear, just, sear it before you throw it in the bag. But that's been the only downside for me is it doesn't sometimes look amazing.
Yeah.
It still tastes amazing. So I made an elk roast a week ago or so, and it ended up pretty much being just for me. And I didn't even try to sear it. I just I don't care what it looks like on the outside. I knew it was going to be tasty on the inside.
Do you have a favorite way to season?
Usually whatever I have in my cabinet that's like free or cheap.
There's nothing wrong with that. Nope.
It's hard for me because there's so many options, and I do have some that I mentioned Chad Belding's Provider Series. He sent me some, and there are some in his offering that I really love. And then Jess Pryles. I don't know if you know Jess Pryles. She is hardcore carnivore.
Oh, yeah.
So she does a show. We do hardcore carnivore on Outdoor Channel. And before I actually had met her, I actually bought the hat because I just liked the idea of wearing a hat that said hardcore carnivore on it in Minnesota. And then I bought her. She has a seasoning for wild game, or for beef and wild game and that. And I do that. I do like for wild game a heavier type of rub. Something with a little more substance, not necessarily garlic, but something with substance, just in case there is some of that gaminess.
It absolutely, an SPG, salt, pepper, garlic rub, a basic one's good. But when we start getting into wild game, honestly, I usually want something with just a little bit of sweetness to it. And I find that if it's got that and some garlic, it does a good job of, hey, it no longer really tastes like wild game.
Should I give you my go-to, my secret recipe?
Absolutely.
So we have a boat in Minnesota that has a grill on it, and I usually do these as sliders. But I will take elk burger and make patties, and I will put some of that seasoning on it, like a heavier type of rub on it, and cook those on the grill. I use pepper jack cheese and bacon and barbecue sauce, maybe lettuce if your wife makes you use a vegetable, if lettuce is a vegetable. And then I do the Hawaiian buns.
Oh yeah, the King's Hawaiian.
The Hawaiian, and then that gives you have the pepper jack, you have the wild game, the barbecue, and the bacon, and that spice, and then the Hawaiian bun just really makes the burger, actually, just because you have that kind of sweet bite, and then you get that little bit of spice. I guess the barbecue sauce, you can pick one that has a little bit of kick to it as well.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds excellent. Now, how often are you out on a boat? Do you do more fishing than hunting?
I used to do more fishing than hunting. I actually sold my fishing boat. I have a friend who has one now, which is even better because I don't have to pay for it. But we have a cruiser boat on Lake Minnetonka in Minnesota. And so we're out probably 5 days a week, weather permitting. It's pretty good, lifestyle. The joke in Minnesota is our summers are fantastic. You just have to be here for both days.
Yep. Yeah, I've spent a decent amount of time up in Minnesota. Now, first of all, gorgeous state. As soon as you get north of Minneapolis, it is just forest as far as the eye can see. Forest and lakes.
For sure.
I mean, you can't, in my mind, at least, you can't beat that. I grew up in upstate New York. I had the Adirondacks as my backyard. So Kansas is a little bit different than what I'm used to. But unfortunately, you do have that Minneapolis area. And that's a bear of a city.
It is. It's a city that needs some help right now. Let's just say.
I would agree. I saw you got your BA from St. John's in government.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? I have a BA in government or political science and a minor in French. Believe it or not.
You definitely doesn't seem like you're using either one of those.
Definitely not using the government. I did appear on a show called Wild Boar Fever a couple years ago, and we went boar hunting in France. So I was able to use my French at that point.
That's excellent. At least you got some use out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
How'd you like going to school in Jamaica Plains?
So you're a New York guy.
Yep.
If you were a Minnesota guy, you would know that I went to the Minnesota St. John's.
Oh, okay.
So we were the Johnnies.
Gotcha.
We were the Division III football powerhouse. The Heisman Trophy for Division III is called the Gallardi Trophy, and it's named after the St. John's University coach, John Gallardi, the legendary coach. So I am not a Redman, I'm a Johnny.
Gotcha. Okay, that does clear things up a little bit.
And that wasn't on my bingo card that would come up in this podcast, by the way.
Well, I saw a New York connection, and I decided to bring it up.
I have a New York connection through my work. There's an annual media event that Niagara Tourism puts on. And so I've gone up there 2 or 3 times so far. I think I'm going to go again. It's in May. And so we go to Lake Erie, and a bunch of brands come in and a bunch of outdoor writers come in, and then we go out and we fish on the Niagara River for smallmouth or muskie. We caught muskie there before. There's walleye as well. And then we'll go out on a day either on Lake Ontario or Lake Erie because they're right there. And, you talk about the Adirondacks being in your backyard. I mean, I grew up, whenever a Minnesotan hears about New York, all we think about are, Manhattan and skyscrapers. And when I landed in Buffalo and then drove to where we went, let's see, I can't remember the name of the fort. There's a military fort right on, it might be Fort Niagara, actually.
Okay.
So we were in a beautiful part of New York, and you felt like it could have been in northern Minnesota.
They're very similar. I tell people that all the time. Like, I live somewhat close to Wichita. I'm about 20 minutes away from downtown. Where I live now is closer to my home in upstate New York than anything like New York City. Like, I did not grow up in a city. I could drive 15 minutes and there'd be nobody around. We had awesome fishing. I didn't grow up hunting. I didn't get into it until I hooked up with Walton's here. But yeah, it very similar to northern Minnesota with the pine forests and the gorgeousness. Now, you mentioned you would go for some muskies up there. You're in an absolute wonderful muskie fishery in Minnesota. What's your biggest?
Well, my biggest, if I ease my camera over here.
Look
at
that. Yeah.
That is a 50-inch muskie from Lake Minnetonka. And it's funny, like this, you want to know who my guide was on that?
Do I dare guess Travis Frank?
Travis Frank from Ron Scherer Productions. the host of The Flush, good friend of Walton's.
He
Yeah,
is our
Travis.
brand
So
ambassador.
Travis was my guide. When I met Travis, it was at a Pheasants Forever banquet. I'll have to do some Minnesota math and figure out how long ago it was. It was a long time ago though. And somebody told me I needed to meet this kid Travis because he wanted to get involved in the outdoors more. He was a muskie guide from Waconia, Minnesota, out just a general outdoorsman, great kid, got a lot of skills. So I remember meeting Travis at this Pheasants Forever banquet, and we connected and had conversations. And we had needs at the time. I was running Ron Scherer Productions, and we were doing, I think, what was called Pheasants Forever Television at the time. That was before it became The Flush. We did Pheasants Forever Television, which aired on Outdoor Channel. I ended up hiring Travis just to be, kind of entry level marketing. He wasn't really into the TV production yet, but he was doing a lot of photography and blogging on his website for fishing, and he was just a completely dialed in fishing guide there. So and then I had to actually convince Ron that we should bring Travis on full time. We needed websites, and Travis had his own website and was able to design all of the Ron Scherer websites, including sites for each one of the shows. So yeah, again, there was some resistance from Ron, but I was able to convince him we needed to bring Travis in, and it's been awesome because I have 3 boys, and when I was working with Travis, my boys were probably 3 boys between say 5 and 11, and they all loved to fish and to hunt. And Travis used to take us fishing. I still get Facebook memories of fishing with Travis and my boys, and now I see Travis with his kids. Who are in that similar age range. And it's super fun to see him be just an awesome guy, awesome dad, married, outkicked his coverage with his wife as well, and just has the perfect family. So, Travis is a bit of a celebrity in Minnesota because he hosts Due North Outdoors, which is on the FanDuel Sports Network now, which used to be Fox Sports North. And they run that show all the time around live sports, around the Minnesota Timberwolves or Minnesota Wild generally. And so Travis, and it's always on the bars. So Travis has probably has a pretty big following. It might hurt Ron's feelings, but Travis might have a bigger following than Ron right now.
Okay, so yes, probably. But here's a quick story. I was driving with Travis. We were going up to fish at Lake of the Woods, and we were meeting Ron up there. We get a call, and he just puts it on speakerphone. And so we're talking to Ron, and I hear him go, huh? What? Oh, thank you. Some guy pulled up next to him and said, hey, I saw you back there. I had to catch up to you to let you know that my grandpa and I used to watch you every Sunday morning, says this to Ron Scherer. So yeah. Ron was beaming the entire weekend with that story. Oh, yeah. He just loved that.
He gets a lot of that. Ron used to be on KARE 11 with Minnesota Bound, but then also on the newscast. And KARE 11 probably still is the #1 news station in the Twin Cities, an NBC affiliate. So, and then he also, for 45 years, I think, wrote the outdoor beat for the Minneapolis Star Tribune. So he was, he is a legend in the space. And, he's in his 80s now, but he's now the director of Min Fish, which is a nonprofit focused on, preserving our fishing opportunities here in Minnesota. And he's pretty tireless. He's working very hard on that. I've always admired him for his commitment to conservation. And when I ran Ron Scherer Productions, we would get almost every day solicitations for donations. Like, hey, and Ron would always say, look, I appreciate your cancer organization or your whatever organization, but we can't support everybody. And it used to piss some people off, but he was very focused on Pheasants Forever and other conservation organizations, the Ike Walton League, and, things that he felt really just amplified what he believed and what he was focused on. So he is, and he's a great storyteller, man. He's also, I'll tell you, he is a writer, right? And so I went to college, as we talked about. I know how to write. And I remember one of my early experiences, I decided I was going to write a script for one of our TV shows. And I felt pretty good about it. And then Ron wrote a script for the same video, that logs that I was looking at. And I read Ron's script and I just quietly slid mine into the garbage can and then never tried again.
Yeah.
Like, he's just so good at it. And and Bill Shirk, who also writes for the Ron Scher Productions crew,
Yep.
and does Flush and other shows. He too is a fantastic writer. It's really what sets them apart in the world of TV is they actually will write scripts and actually produce TV from a script versus just like, okay, you and Travis going to Lake of the Woods. That's the story. We're just gonna play it out as it happens. They'll actually write a storyline to it.
Yeah, they understand the structure of storytelling. They do a phenomenal job at it. I've seen some episodes where there might not be a lot of action, but what they're talking about resonates so well that it doesn't even matter that, it wasn't a particularly successful hunt or fish. They're just so good at talking about the outdoors. I absolutely love watching their stuff.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
And even at 82, I mean, he's still towing his own boat. He's still captaining his own boat. I don't know how much longer that's going to go on for, but yeah, no, Ron's a very impressive man.
Yeah.
However, finding Travis is a pretty good feather in your cap. I mean,
I like to think so. I'm glad we talked about that. So when they listen to this, they can be reminded of the positive impact that I had on Ron Scher Productions by bringing Travis into the fold.
Yep, it definitely did help. You also mentioned Bill. Bill and Travis have both been part of two of not only my favorite days of fishing ever, but just two of my favorite days of my entire life. So I absolutely adore those guys. They're both great people.
No, same. And I bet your fishing involved Wiley Point up on Lake of the Woods. Is that where you went?
Absolutely, it did. Yep.
I've been there a few times with them. In fact, when I left Ron Scher Productions, Scott Franson, who took over, was very kind, and he gave me and my family a going away trip to Wiley Point. So we took our boys up to Wiley Point, and my wife and my oldest caught their first muskies up there.
Nice. And
we had a very memorable trip. And in fact, I'm overdue. I need to get back up there.
Oh yeah, it's definitely worth it. It's a long trip, at least from Kansas. But my biggest muskie ever is up there. I caught my biggest smallmouth, my biggest walleye. It's personal best up there, left and right for me.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place. A lot of fun.
It is. Now you kind of brought up, Ron always had the black lab with him. I think it's Molly right now, or is it? I don't remember. Miley?
Minnie.
Minnie. Yep, that's it. But you have Luna.
Luna, yes. Luna is my, so my kids have all left home. So she's my wife and our fourth child now.
That's the one.
Our first girl.
And how old?
She is 4. She's
okay.
4. So, when I've always wanted a bird dog, but I had a pretty hectic work and travel schedule. So when the pandemic hit, 2 things happened. One, I decided to quit drinking when most people, I think, started to drink more. And I was like, wow, I've got all of this money that I'm saving. So I put the money into Luna and her training. And Tom and Tina Dockin from Dockin's Kennels in Northfield, Minnesota, they were the trainers of all of the ravens. Millie, by the way, is the dog.
There you go.
Minnie. It's Millie for Minnesota Bound now. But yeah, so Tina Dockin helped find a dog for me. We'd actually put money down on a litter that didn't take, and then they found another one, and Luna came into our family. We sent her to Dawkins for training, and I work with her pretty much every day. But she's just a beautiful, driven hunting dog. And so we were up in South Dakota with the Waltons folks there, and able to put her to the test. She retrieved about 20 birds, I think, over the course of a couple of days. And sadly, because I've been deer hunting, she hasn't been out that much. But we're going out this Saturday, probably Sunday as well. And we're going to go next weekend as well. So she'll really and we'll do another trip to South Dakota this year, so she'll get some reps.
Well, I mean, that's what they need. At 4 years, she's starting to enter her prime. Being a black lab, I assume she's good at duck, at pretty much everything. If it flies, she wants it.
She is, yeah,
Okay.
very driven. She's very good. I would tell you, it is fun to see. I've watched her hit milestones, and when you pay attention, you can see how she's developing. What she did this year in her progression is, I would say that she used to, she'd leave the kennel and she would go like Mach 3 through the field, and then she'd get tired out. She's been a little more consistent in her pace. She's always good at staying close, and she's a good retriever. And then I did take her on a duck hunt this year, and it's just, I don't do a lot of duck hunting. So it's hard to get her to go from, being a flushing dog in the pheasant field, going to the shot, looking for the bird, to sitting by my side, being calm, waiting until I release her, because it's just different than what she's been doing mostly, which is pheasant. But she did really well this year in the duck blind, and we had 4 shooters with us in addition to me. So the first few rounds, I just held her, but I didn't really have to hold her back. Like she waited until I released her, and she definitely likes the water retrieves. She did her first goose retrieve this year in the water. She's done some field retrieves already. But she's really good at that. And the only thing I've got to work through is in the pheasant field, like she's trained to come and sit by my side and hold it till I take it from her. But she gets my mouth full of feathers, and a lot of times she'll just want to run and throw it at my feet, it's not awful, but I've seen her do it perfectly too. You want her to do it like she's trained, but she does it better with the waterfowl, because the waterfowl are just, they don't have the same dry feathers. They're just a little more organized when she brings them back, I think.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And being a lab, and specifically a black lab, for whatever reason it seems to be, they always love water retrieves. I mean, you could see it lights up in their eyes. Brett has a mix of a German wire hair and a German short hair. I believe that's the mix. And as soon as you put that kennel in the truck, he knows exactly what's going on, and you just see him switch on. He's like, here we go. This is my job. This is what I'm meant to do. That's my favorite part of upland hunting. I very much enjoy eating pheasant. There's tons of good things you can do with it, even more so for quail. But my favorite part of it is watching the dogs.
Yeah, no, for sure. You mentioned though, salt, pepper, and garlic. I take Luna to a game farm, and it's not for me to shoot birds. It's for her, just to give her reps, and we'll put chucker out. Is that a partridge, a chucker? And I prefer shooting those, because when I go home, I will just cube them up, and I will pan fry them in salt, pepper, and garlic with a little bit of olive oil.
Yeah.
And it is so good. And like, nothing against pheasant, but the chucker is, it's like that gap between venison and elk, right? For me, the pheasant to the chucker, it's so good. So, which reminds me, I'm going out there this weekend. I may have to shoot some chucker. They're also a lot easier to shoot, because they tend to hold at this game farm that we're at, so you can get up to them and smack them. There's not a lot to each of them, but boy, they sure taste good.
Yeah, I always, because whenever we go, you're either hunting or you're hunting both pheasant and quail at the same time, right? They're gonna be near each other. And I don't love quail hunting for 2 reasons. One, just to be honest, I'm not the best shot with a shotgun. Like, I'm just not. And second is, they stay so low, and I always worry about the dogs, to the point where I'm just like, I'm not taking that shot. I'm not that's an absolute nightmare scenario for everybody, and I'm just not going to be responsible for doing that. So
no, for you, I guess I have never done it. So, but I can see that being, it's a little nerve wracking with your dog. And I hunt a lot of times with people who I don't normally hunt with or know, and I enjoy taking people to the game farm to introduce them to pheasant hunting, because it's 100% opportunity, right?
Sure.
And we just drill into their head, like you're shooting into the skyline. We don't shoot on the ground. You don't shoot, you have your safe zone, and no bird is worth taking a risky shot,
Nope.
and in a lot of these cases, they'll land in our field again anyways. You'll get another chance at them. So don't, just make sure 100% safety is the key.
And it was, well, you mentioned Chucker. I don't know if it was Scott Franson, Travis, or one of those guys said the first time you hunt Chucker is just a regular hunt, but the second time is for revenge. Because I guess in the wild, they're incredibly hard to hunt. I've never had to do it. So do you have because it sounds like you do everything. Do you have a favorite thing to go after?
I don't, because like it's funny. I used to be a hardcore muskie fisherman, and you're fishing for 30-pound, 50-inch trophies.
Yeah.
But then we get into the winter here, and we'll catch 11, 9, 10, 11-inch crappie, and you cook up a mess of crappie, and it's a different kind of fun, but it's still fun. I still enjoy that, right? And saying like I shot an elk. I've shot a bunch of deer, but I still like shooting pheasants, like working with Luna, going out one-on-one with my dog and shooting some pheasants, walking through the field. That's clearly, on the top. Hunting with my family or fishing with my family is on the top. We did a Costa Rica fishing trip last year, which was amazing. So I guess it's probably the camp and the people more than the quarry that are my favorites. But definitely when you get a bird dog and you put the work in and then you watch the results, that's rewarding. I just feel bad I haven't done enough of that yet, but I'll turn the corner here, and we can hunt pheasants into January. It's through the end of the year in Minnesota, but then we go to South Dakota. And we love it when the sloughs freeze up. It's easier for the dogs. The birds tend to hunker down a little bit more. So
Yeah.
I've got a trip to South Dakota planned for the first week of December. That should be good. And then, so I'll probably get out another, 6 to 10 times for upland here before the end of the year. But I also take part in a cull hunt for whitetail here in the West Metro. So I'll probably also shoot a handful of deer before the end of the year.
What are your deer like up there? What size are we looking at?
It depends where you're at in the state, but in the southeast, we're right across the river from Buffalo County.
Okay.
Wabasha County has some really good deer. I shot a deer in the Rochester, Minnesota area a few years ago. It's one of those that's up there. I think it's that one.
Okay.
That field
deer.
dress, like 265 pounds. It was like a 5.5-year-old 9-point. So, they're not as big as the Kansas deer necessarily, but, and I just don't think we have the same numbers of quality deer that you get in Kansas. Plus we have a little more population density. But yeah, we have numbers of deer, in the metro area. It's unlimited doe. So like you can for like $16, you get a doe tag and you can take as many as you want. Like they're just, I know in the city south of me, Minnetonka, we actually called the DNR about a coyote, trying to get rid of a coyote that had a den in the area. And the cop told us that every year they cull 200 deer from the city of Minnetonka.
The actual city.
The city, right?
Yeah.
It's, there's wooded areas and there's some creeks that go through there. So the guy says it's pretty fun because they'll use night vision and suppressed rifles. And he goes, they've had some pretty good drags out of the woods for some big deer. They're not targeting the big deer necessarily, but they definitely shoot a few of them.
Yeah, we have somebody here who has become obsessed with coyote hunting. He bought a gorgeous thermal scope. His suppressor just came in, and they go out a couple of times a week and just trying to keep that predator population down. Because like you said, in Kansas, we have the perfect setup for deer. We have wide open spaces. There's corn everywhere. So they're able to eat. And we don't have wolves like you guys have up in, your area.
Right, northern Minnesota.
Ooh.
Yeah, we don't see them down here too often. They'll range down occasionally, but I've hunted up in an area by Camp Ripley where there's a big wolf pack, and not to go down that wolf wormhole, but like the deer where we used to hunt are gone, like they're just gone. So and the wolf pack is thriving, and they're fat and happy. Travis and I, by the way, way back when, we worked together on a series that we started for Fox Pro, the game call company, and it was called Fur Takers.
Okay.
Fox Pro's Fur Takers, and Travis was a producer on it, and so we got to do a lot of predator hunting. And I was on the show one point in South Dakota. We did a trip out there, so that's where most of my predator hunting happened. I sure learned a lot about it from the Fox Pro show, but also got to go out a couple of times with the guys.
And your wolves in Minnesota, those weren't reintroduced; they've just been there. So
I don't remember the history. I don't think there was ever a reintroduction. There was. I don't think they've ever left, but we do have. Timber wolves. I think they're native. I could be wrong. It's not the Colorado experiment, let's just say.
Exactly.
We've always had wolves. We had a wolf hunting season, and then they closed that. And it's a controversial topic because I think the number of wolves, the target's like 2,500 wolves or something in Minnesota, and there's politics involved in counting wolves, I guess, because I think I've heard there's upwards of 4,000 or 5,000 of them. And when they have pups and that, and then they, depends on when you take the census. But yes, we have a healthy wolf population. In fact, it's been in the news the last couple of weeks. Ely, Minnesota is up on the northern border. It's the gate towards the border. It's the gateway to the Boundary Waters Wilderness area. And Ely has had wolves running through town in the last couple of weeks. But, they're not going into the schools at this point. They're just running through the playgrounds.
Yeah, and that's always a concern. Travis posted something to his Instagram about hunting in wolf country, and he walked into this little open area, and there was a big, beautiful, like nothing left on it. Yeah,
I saw that post. Yeah.
And part of me is like, hey, you're our brand ambassador. Get out of there. I don't want to see you get eaten. But when's the last time there's been a wolf fatality in America? It's been a very long time.
Right. That doesn't seem to be the concern versus mountain lions or grizzly bears. But there's definitely, I think the politics of conservation are disheartening at times in the country. And in Colorado, where they did, a ballot initiative to reintroduce wolves, like Colorado has, their game wardens are actually biologists. Mm-hmm. Right. Like they are knowledgeable about conservation and species, and like they're scientists, and they were opposed to the wolf reintroduction, but it didn't matter because an activist group, got it as a ballot initiative and went out and, and through, emotional appeals had the initiative approved. And it's like, what a disaster that is for conservation. You have professionals, and our professionals in Minnesota aren't perfect, but I mean, that's their job is to be an expert in wolf management. But right now it seems to be the activists in the courts are more involved in the conservation than the actual experts.
And these people in general, because obviously I'm generalizing here, but the people who are voting for reintroducing wolves, things like that, they're not generally the ones that have to deal with it, right? They're living in the city voting like, yes, ranchers, now you have wolves to contend with. Good luck with that. So it's a nightmare, which I don't know how we get out of.
I hear you.
I wasn't aware that to be a game warden in Colorado, you had to be a biologist, but that makes a lot of sense.
I came across that at some point in my career. I'm pretty sure it's true.
Just one of those things you've always said.
If it's not, your listeners will let us know, but I do believe it is true that they are biology. It's not as much about the enforcement side. It's more of they have a biology background.
So when we kind of hooked up through Allie when she went on this Ron Share hunt, you were there. Any funny stories, Allie, Brett, Dylan? Any of them miss easy shots? Anything that we can make fun of them for?
So I actually think that we had two groups, and they were in the other group.
Okay.
So I didn't actually hunt with them. We spent time. We had lunch together, and they of course brought a cooler full of snacks, which was fantastic. I came clean that last year I took, or 2 years ago, I took a bag of meat sticks and found them in my glove compartment like 3 months later. I'm sure they were probably still good, but I probably didn't test them that way. One thing I'll tell you is that one of my good friends in my work world is Nick Hoffman from Nick's Wild Ride.
Love Nick.
Because Nick's a Minnesota boy, right? And we've worked together. This is his 10th season now on Outdoor Channel, and I've helped advise him through the years. He's really good and creative on his own, but whenever he has a question, he'll call. And so I also I've dealt with him when he's frustrated or annoyed or whatever. So I suggested to Allie a couple of ways that we could get Nick, like, because he's super sensitive and like he wants to be a good partner. And he has a video on YouTube. You can search it up. It's if you search like Nick Hoffman, We Don't Add Up. And it's a song that he sings on the front porch of his place in Nashville, just outside of Nashville. And it's pretty funny, but it has kind of adult innuendo.
Okay.
It's not vulgar.
Sure.
But I'll just tell you that the first line is she likes pussycats. But there's a long pause
between
long pause in the middle of Pussycat, right? And so you don't know where he's going with it, but it's a very cute song. And I said to Allie, I said, because he had been trying to reach her before he was going out on a big hunt. I said, when you talk to him, tell him that your dad found that video online and he is deeply offended by it.
And that would get him, because
oh my gosh, that would, before that call was over, he would have probably have taken it down. But even though there's really nothing wrong with it, but I could, like, he, because he's like, maybe he's a blonde guy, right? Maybe kind of gingerish, kind of. He would have been beet red for sure. He would have been apologetic, whatever. But anyhow, I gave her some other suggestions that were a little more aggressive than that one, but she was going to try that. But ultimately, I think she's too nice of a person to do it.
Allie's
we
not
still
doing
had
that.
Fun. We still had fun thinking about doing it.
Yeah, that's awesome that you know Nick. Nick is a wonderful guy. I've gotten a chance to hang out with him. We've done some processing in here, and every time he leaves, I'm always left with two things. Like, one, I feel lazy. Because that guy, talk about burning the candle at both ends.
Oh, yeah.
He has nonstop hard charger. And I just get a more positive vibe after hanging out with him. Because he's such a just good guy. I absolutely love Nick. And he's always, I'm going to be in the Wichita area because I've got a plane. I got to fly back or whatever. And just very rarely does it end up working where we get to see him because he is so busy.
Yeah. Now he's got family here in Minnesota, which helps. So I've had him out on the boat with his wife, Natalie. And we see each other frequently, and we'll go to trade shows and we'll hang out together. We may or may not have spent like $800 on sushi in Las Vegas one night.
There you go.
There was sake involved in that, I'm sure. But we've had some fun stories, and it's been fun really being along on Nick's Wild Ride.
So he's the one who turned us on to at least the mountain lion as a delicious meat. Has he talked? Yeah. Have you gotten a chance to try mountain lion?
I've tried it, not with him.
Okay.
And in fact, honestly, the one I had was, we talk about, wild game getting too dry. I think the time I tried it, it really looked and had the consistency of a pork chop, but mine was a little bit dry. So I would definitely try it again. But that was the only opportunity I had.
Yeah, that's a shame because it is absolutely delicious. We thought he was messing with us because you kind of know how he is. So he was like, no, it's mountain lion. It might even be my favorite meat. And we're like, yeah, whatever. And then we heard it a few other times, and we had someone send us some. And we've eaten a lot of weird things here: possum, beaver tail,
Yeah.
but that was by far and away the most pleasantly surprised I've ever been eating any wild
Have you
game.
ever eaten coyote?
I have not, and I think that one I draw the line on.
So I stand with you. So I've eaten carp,
Sure.
right? We shot carp and we fried it up. There you just have to get rid of the mud line, and we fried it up with Cajun seasoning, and it tasted like Cajun seasoning
Right.
for the most part. But it was very hard to take that bite knowing you're eating a carp.
Yeah.
So I did a show called Andrew Zimmern's Wild Game Kitchen for Outdoor Channel.
Okay.
It's a show. It's on Tastemade now, and Andrew Zimmern was the host for 13 plus years of Bizarre Foods.
That's where I know him from. Okay.
Yeah, he would eat anything and try weird stuff. Well, Andrew Zimmer's Wild Game Kitchen is more traditional quarry. We don't do a lot of the weird stuff, but I asked him about coyote. And he said, if I bring him a good, coyote, he'll cook it and I'll like it. And I'm like, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can go there.
It's not even it's too close to a dog or it's in the canine family that bothers me. There's just something specifically about a coyote, because I probably would take a try of wolf if it was ever, obviously you can't, but if you could, but something about a coyote, I'm just not in on. Like,
yeah, they're a scavenger. They don't have a very clean diet. I've seen them skinned. It doesn't look that appealing either.
That's definitely a part of it.
By the way, I've had some really good bear meat. My first bear I got was a bear in Idaho, and we put it pretty much into burger, and it was really kind of a sweet burger. It was pretty good. I enjoyed that.
Black bear?
Yeah, it was a black bear.
Okay.
I only shot a couple black bear in my life as well.
Yeah, you think that the difference between black bear and grizzly bear, taste wise, all of it depends on what they're eating. I mean, that's what it comes down to. I've heard wonderful stories about getting black bear that have been eating over berry fields, and then I've heard the ones that are eating out of a garbage dump too.
Yeah, exactly.
It makes
they say like one of the best tasting wild animals is a squirrel because it has a super clean diet of nuts.
Yep.
Right. And it just makes their meat taste good.
Yeah. Oddly, the first hunting I ever did was 10 years ago. Well, no, it's probably 20 years ago now. I was at my brother's wife's uncle's place, whatever that makes it, just north of Austin. And I wake up to getting kicked in the ribs at 4:30 in the morning. He's like, come on, we're going squirrel hunting. I'm like, he's joking, right? And I'm like, nope. And that's when I first learned that there is a very big difference between city squirrels and forest squirrels.
Oh, yeah.
Because they know what you're out there for.
Right? Oh, yeah. They're sketchy. They see you and they're moving. It's yeah. I don't know. I've seen guys, they hunt with dogs with them too. And it's like, that's cool. I haven't done a lot of squirrel hunting, but I would, because, you need a bunch of them to actually feed yourself.
Yeah. There's not a lot of meat on that. One of the things about Nick Hoffman is obviously the Fiddle Me Nick, all of that. He's a great fiddle player, good country music star. You're also fairly into the country music scene.
Yeah, I got into it years ago. I had an idea. It was called Country Outdoors, and which when I worked for Ron Shera, because a lot of the Shera guys, Scott Franson and Rob Burrell, who does sales there, they all came from radio. So I said we should do a radio show called Country Outdoors, and we'll just interview people about their outdoor experiences and play music and whatnot. And we talked to the local, K102, which is the big country station in Minneapolis, and they said that country radio is all about music. There's almost no talk. They don't even talk about like the Minnesota Vikings, even though they know their audiences are Vikings fans. Their audiences are Vikings fans, but it was just the format didn't work for them. And then they said, plus, if we ever did it, we would just use our own radio people. So I kind of shelved that. And then we were in a planning meeting at the network that I work for, Outdoor Channel, and talking about getting into podcasts. And I said, well, I have this idea called Country Outdoors. If you want to do a podcast, I could do that. And so they agreed to do that. And they helped fund it. And I found a young woman named Mary O'Neill Phillips. She was an Australian who was doing reporting on country music out of Australia and out of Nashville. And she and I started Country Outdoors podcast. So we did, just over 50 episodes of that. And then my day job started kind of getting cramped a little bit. So I had to go back to my day job. But she continues with her husband today. She does the podcast on her own, Country Outdoors, and they do an adventure series that we host on our Outdoor Channel social media called Country Outdoors. And they're planning the Country Outdoors TV series that will be on Sportsman Channel starting in January. So yes, I've met a lot of country artists over the years because, we have very similar audiences, and they're all independent artists trying to grow their businesses. So they like the idea of being on TV. We have Dustin Lynch is on Outdoor Channel quite a bit. Luke Bryan and Jason Aldean are on Buck Commander, which is on Outdoor Channel. Tom McMillan, who lives down by you there, that's who I hunted deer with one time. He is probably Blake Shelton's best friend. He's been his best man at his weddings, and they're really good buddies. So we, through that, I've gotten to meet a bunch of them. A lot of those artists will come through the Twin Cities, and they'll have some time off. So I've been able to take guys like Cody Johnson and Scott, Dylan Scott, forgot his name.
Okay.
Jordan Davis, who is on fire right now. Awesome guy. He's flown up to ice fish with us a couple of times. And Parker McCullum, he caught a big pike through the ice a couple of years ago. We were fishing with him. So yeah, we like to get him out and give him that experience and have fun. Good people.
Yeah, generally that's all you want when you're out hunting, or all I want is to hang out with good people. I mean, obviously you want to be successful, but you alluded to it earlier. It's more about the experience than anything else, at least in my mind. Go ahead.
So part of my job is to, work with talent and bring in new talent. And I think, one of my firm beliefs is our audience is like the litmus test is, would I want to be in a hunting camp with Jonathan? And yes, I would. That's it. And then they'll, they may ebb and flow with whatever. Not everybody wants to be with Michael Waddell the whole time, but most people watch him and they're like, man, that would just be a hoot to be in a camp with Michael Waddell. And he does that. And so, and I like our talent to be consistent. I don't want them to be playing a role. Like we're the original reality television. You're not acting. You're not, don't create this character. Like, just be yourself. And that's what tends to attract people to a show, I think, and to talent.
So you've been in the industry, outdoor entertainment, how many years? I mean, we're going on 20?
I think I joined Ron Shera Productions around 2004.
Okay, so we're going on 20 years.
Yeah, that seems about right.
I'll
have to check my LinkedIn, which I don't maintain.
Nobody does anymore. How have you seen it change in that 20 years?
Well, obviously the technology has changed the industry radically. Back when I started, like, we were the only game in town, and Outdoor Channel was like the North Star for all things outdoor television. And that was where everybody wanted to be, right? So you wanted to be Michael Waddell, you wanted to be Lee and Tiffany Lukoski if you were interested in being in this space. And as the technology has shifted and YouTube has come along now, there's no barrier to entry. Like with your cell phone, you can be a star on YouTube. And so everybody's posting content. I still think that very few people actually make it to the top there, just like in pro sports or in television. Just because you have a show, it doesn't mean people are going to, be drawn to it or watch it. It's still the same on YouTube. There's, for every superstar there is on YouTube, there's, 10,000 wannabes. Um, so we've seen that our audience is aging, and kids these days are not paying a premium for TV at this point. A lot of the research shows they'd start when they have children,
Okay.
because then they're tied to their homes a little bit more. But I do think an alarming trend is that we're all being trained to get like dopamine hits in 45 to 60 seconds bursts, right? You used to want to sit down, and we joke about that. We at Ron Share Productions, we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on camera equipment to transition from standard definition to high definition, right? And then, in the TVs that we would buy, and you could buy now, you can still, it blows my mind. You can still pay thousands of dollars for a television, but you can also pay $299 for a 55-inch
Yep.
flat screen. That's better than anything we ever had when we were growing up. And now most of our audiences are watching on a device while they're doing something
else. Yep.
So there's been a de-evolution, I think, of quality. I think quality production, unfortunately, has been devalued, right? Because I'm used to, man, you shoot it on your phone, and if it's entertaining, I'll watch it. Where it used to be like, oh, if it's not in HD, I don't even turn that channel on anymore, But so that's been a big challenge for all of us. Is the target has been moved, and so we've got to adapt, and the business behind it has changed as well. And quite frankly, a lot of the money is in the business is not reaching the content creators. It's unfortunately going to brands like Meta and Google, because because that's how brands need to connect with audiences, or consumers, which I understand. But it's a little disheartening because the people who are creating the content and inspiring people to participate are suffering.
Yeah. Now, absolutely, we're being trained lower quality because of the cell phone footage and shorter hits. Where I would not necessarily push back, but just I think it's important. If I want to become associated with a brand, and that could be just me being a customer of theirs, I want to see high quality content put out. I don't want to just see, the flush wouldn't be the flush if Travis walked around with a cell phone following him. Like, it does make a difference that I can see every little speck of every, pheasant feather that comes down. So there absolutely is a value in that, I think, to everybody, whether they realize it or not. It might be one of those subconscious things that people are feeling more positively towards a brand, a show, or whatever that's still done, quote unquote, the right way.
Yeah. Well, there's also, I think we're pushing the limits of what a human can handle in terms of stimulation from entertainment. Like, there used to be that the research showed that that guys like you and I 10 years ago, we had 10 channels that we would tune into. And that worked for me. I'd watch some of my locals. I liked watching Discovery. I, of course, watched Outdoor Channel. And if I sat down to watch, that's what I would do. I'd go through my rotation. I may have them on favorites anyways. And now it's like, well, I wait and somebody tells me, it gives me an idea of something to stream, like it's something to binge. We'll do that. We just say it into the voice recorder. Now it's like you don't even, the viewing experience has really devolved, and it's not great right now. It will start getting better again. I think there's going to be some consolidation, but it's just, there's only so much time in a day. If you listen to the Meat Eater podcast, right, that takes a lot of time.
It does.
So to discover a new podcast and something that you're going to listen to regularly, I mean, it's if you're watching TV and listening to podcasts and doing social media, like it sucks up a lot of time. So there's only so much time in the day available to people for viewing, and people are still watching live sports right? And still watching a lot, news on TV. So I think TV is settling into its groove. It's definitely off of its peak, but
Yeah.
it's still like we deliver for Outdoor Channel. It's a smaller audience now, but it's still a very high quality audience. Like if you're going to pay a premium to watch it, and it's because you're participating in it, you're engaged in the sport, you're looking for inspiration, and so we really do have a great audience of outdoors men and women who watch the network still.
Sure. It was always key target demo. You'll know the age range. I don't, in just like generalities. But once you start getting into, feels almost disrespectful to say niche, but more targeted audiences like the outdoor community, that's an audience that is going to go seek out that and pay attention. People who have Jimmy Kimmel on, most of the time they just have it on. They're not actually really paying attention. So I would say that's a advantage. So
right, they turn it on. It's habitual view. Like it's 10 o'clock at night. I'm going to watch the news, and then I'm going to watch Jimmy Kimmel. Versus ours, our audiences grow significantly in the fall because people will watch outdoor programming when they're in the season. That, I'm getting ready for my hunt. It helps get them pumped up and motivated. And so we've always seen that kind of lift in the fall. And, but obviously there is no off season in this world. There's always fishing going on and other things. So, but yeah, it's it's an interesting time to be in the outdoor media space.
And any predictions? Like, I know we talked about a little bit of it, consolidation. Is that kind of where you see everything going in the outdoor media? Is almost a return to center where there aren't maybe as many options, but what is available is more broadcast to everyone? Would that be fair to say?
I don't know if there will be a return to center, because I do think that, like with YouTube, as long as YouTube doesn't cancel, right? They've already demonetized firearms programming. They're one decision away from saying you can't show hunting, right? And if that happens, that would be really bad for people producing content to YouTube. We're obviously a safe space for that type of content. But what YouTube has is unlimited capacity, right? They've never said no to somebody who wants to do something as long as it follows their guidelines. Whereas we have a limited amount of time and space on our network. So, we're somewhat more selective. But so I do think there will always be that fringe outlier of content. I do think there will be fewer networks going forward. And, we think that we've got great products in My Outdoor TV, which is on demand. We have a fast channel called Game and Fish TV, which is available on Samsung and Vizio TVs and pretty much everywhere you want to watch. And it's free ad supported TV. So that's part of our mix now. And we also have 20 magazines and 17 websites. So as a media company, the Outdoor Sportsman's Group, who I work for, we feel like we'll always be there. But we've had to adapt dramatically to the marketplace to really maintain that position.
Yeah, and one of the things during COVID, at least in the middle of the country, there was a huge increase in hunting licenses sold. There were also all of these people who had never processed their own deer. They'd never shot their own deer. So we saw an initial burst in viewership and, obviously business. I assume the same thing followed along with the outdoor television.
Yeah, we definitely did see increases in audiences during that time when people weren't able to participate as much. They were watching, or, and we do a lot of programming. I mentioned Andrew Zimmern's Wild Game Kitchen. We have Cast Iron Cowboy on Outdoor Channel right now. We did a show called Man Eats Wild with Mario Calpo, and now he's doing a series called United Plates. So we've built a lot of programming around cooking and wild game consumption and that's done very well in that same time frame, because if people, they were able to actually participate and go out and have success hunting, we wanted to help inspire them to, how to utilize that.
Yeah, and Man Eats Wild is it not on anymore? Is he
It's not on. It's now, Mario's essentially moved on to a new series called
okay?
United Plates.
It
So
was
it's very similar concept, a little bit lighter on the adventure and a little bit more on he's in a camper driving across the country, experiencing, the outdoors and cooking locally. We did another show called Feral with Yia Vang, who's a Hmong chef here in Minneapolis.
okay.
And that was also cool. It wasn't just cooking feral animals, but it was, going out and cooking some, things that were on the outside of normal. And he did lionfish and iguana and python and other type of cool stuff. But he also did venison and turkey and pheasant and other more traditional fare.
Yeah, that sounds absolutely like fascinating. I love to see people eat things that are quote unquote non-traditional. Out of that list, the only thing I haven't eaten, still haven't done lionfish. Not for lack of trying. It's just very hard to get lionfish shipped to Kansas.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Is there anything? Go ahead.
I haven't had lionfish either.
Okay. Is there anything on your radar coming up that you want to let everybody know about, or any new shows in your industry? Anything going on?
Well, I don't think the cat's out of the bag yet, so I guess I can just tease it that we are working with our good friends there at Ron Scherer Productions for a new series coming next year, which will be a little bit more of a variety series. It's not going to just be upland. There will be some upland involved, but it will be a multi-species game hunting show with one of their other partners that I'm sure they'll talk about later on. So that's new and exciting. Other than that, I think we're just on track to have a really good fishing year. I don't know if you're into fishing, we do a show with Kevin Van Dam, who's like truly the greatest of all time bass angler. It's called the Van Dam Experience. He's got season 2 in the can, and he's working on season 3. And one of his guests is Steve Harvey.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and we met Steve Harvey last year at ICAST, and man, I've never seen someone build a crowd in a trade show like that faster than that guy. When he walks around, it's absolutely crazy. People just really are drawn to him. And he loves to fish. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, A, he's ultra famous, and B, I don't think I've ever talked to someone who's like, no, I don't like that guy. He has such a likable personality.
Yeah, for sure.
And speaking about fishing, I stalked your Instagram, obviously. What can you tell us any of the story with that ridiculous 75-inch Goliath grouper?
Yeah, it's TV related, by the way, because I actually just had a guy, Mark Davis, who just called me while we were on this, and I sent him to voicemail. When I first took this position, I had seen Mark Davis on a TV show where they did stomach sampling of Goliath grouper. And like, as a Minnesota kid who likes catching muskies and big smallmouth, I'm like, man, that would just be crazy to catch a Goliath grouper. So the first year I had this job, he showed up at SHOT Show at a producer meeting that we had. And I introduced myself to him and said, man, I'm a fan of your show. I watched your Goliath grouper deal. I said, it's on my bucket list. And he said, well, let's go. And I'm like, he goes, so we do the annual, that was in January. And then in July, we will go to the ICAST fishing trade show. And so he said, come down a couple of days early and we'll do it. And so my wife and I went down, and this is when Facebook Lives just first started as well.
Okay.
So my wife hooks up to this Goliath grouper. I'm filming it. We had over 100,000 people watching, right? Like now you do one, it's like 13 people will watch.
Right, you're very small.
Back then there was a lot of people, and it was awesome because, my wife weighs like 100 pounds wet, and she's got this 400-pound grouper on. And a friend of ours told her that she would never be able to handle it. which was all the motivation she needed. She kicked its butt, and I have it on video. So it's really pretty cool. So it's very exciting, and they're protected. You can't take them out of the water, even if you could lift them. So we went up to shore with it and took some pictures on the shore. And then we went and had lunch, coincidentally, at the restaurant that inspired the song Cheeseburger in Paradise. It was in Boca Grande Pass, Florida, and came out afterwards. And yes, I hooked into one that was, let's just call it about the same size as my wife's, because she was a little bit annoyed with me that she had the biggest fish in the family for a couple of hours.
Yeah, and you took it right back.
Which is funny, which is why I generally only post pictures of her fish, and the photo we have of hers is more impressive than mine. But man, those things are, it's like if you hooked a rod up to an ATV and tried to reel it in, it only lasts for about 5 minutes, but man, they're so powerful. They can really just do whatever you want. We were strapped into a chair on the front of a boat, so we didn't get pulled in.
I imagine the tackle had to be unbelievable heavy duty.
I don't remember what the leader was, but like it was, the line was, like almost a quarter inch around, not quite. And I seriously think the leader was like 600-pound test or something like that. So, and we used stingrays for bait. So we went out and with bow and arrow shot stingrays.
Oh, that's so awesome.
And that you put them on a hook and you drop them down, and that's what the grouper would eat.
So oddly, bow fishing is the one thing I've never gotten the opportunity to do. Badly want to. I'm in a neighborhood where I've got 4-foot grass carp that won't bite on. Like, I've tried everything you could possibly imagine. They're not interested in anything. And the police station is right in my backyard. So I'm friendly with a bunch of the cops. And I asked them one day, I'm like, hey, what would you do if I was walking around with a bow? And they're like, no. I was like, but I could. And they're like, no, John, don't do it. We don't want to come over and have this conversation with you. But I badly want to get a chance to do that.
If you come up anytime after April in the Twin Cities area, I know where they live.
Oh, yeah.
We'll find we can walk in, you shoot carp, we shoot them off bridges, we shoot them in creeks. They're really invasive, and they wreak havoc on our lakes. So the laws are pretty relaxed up here because you're shooting a low speed arrow tethered to the bow. It's not like you're gonna lose control over that and wreak havoc on the community. So yes, the law enforcement will support you coming up to help us take care of our carp population. I will, and then we'll cook one and we'll make you eat it.
I will 100% take you up on all of that. I don't know if Travis was, just being nice the first time he offered to give us like a guided tour on Waconia, but we took him up like a month later. We're like, yeah, no, we'll be there. Like, we'll come up and do that.
Yeah, I've done that. I've fished Waconia with him a few times, and he knows that like the back of his hand. He taught me pretty much everything I know about muskie fishing too. And, but the waters have changed here. We have zebra mussels now, and the water clarity is really good. And so the muskies have kind of moved a little bit deeper. So they're patterning a little different than when Travis got me on my first 50-inch.
Yeah. I said the first time I fished with him, it was like he knew all the fish by name. It's like, they're going to be right over there. It's going to hit as soon as you get to like 5 feet, they're going to nail it. It was unbelievable. Yep.
We went to one of his spots, and he just told me to cast to this marker. And I made probably a dozen casts to that marker with this little top raider bait that I use. And his buddy Mike was with us at the time. And I'm like, all right, Travis. He was like, okay, it might not be there. I pull back. His buddy Mike makes one cast, big explosion, 51.5-inch muskie.
And your biggest is that 50-incher back there?
50, yeah. So, but that's fine. It's also a bit of a team sport. Like, there was no animosity of Mike catching that fish. We had high fives and great. We still talk about it. Mike lives in Nashville, and I see him occasionally, and we talk about it. It was a great experience.
So I like to look at the difference between like crappie, walleye, bass fishing and muskie fishing as the difference between upland hunting and big game hunting. Like, when we're muskie fishing, Travis knows there's a fish off that point. That's the one we're going for. When we're bass fishing, we're just like, oh, there's some bass in there. So the last time we went, similar story. He told me exactly where to cast. He gave me 3 casts at it. And he's like, okay, now cast over there. he cast, and bang, 50-incher, like as soon as it hit the water. And he felt kind of, you could tell he felt a little bit bad because he was trying to get me to catch that fish. But then 20, 30 minutes later, I got one. So we like doubled up. It was phenomenal.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ron would have told Travis to take the hooks off his lure.
Yeah.
So he doesn't catch it.
But when we're fishing around Ron, it always does seem like Ron's rod is bent more than anybody else's.
I'll leave you with one good Ron share a story. And I love Ron. Like I loved working for him. I have a lot of respect for him. I loved making fun of some of his quirks. And he invited me to his traditional family fishing camp for the Wisconsin walleye opener, which was a great invite. I drove separately. I said, I'll just rent a room at this place on Yellow Lake, I think it was called, the Ike Walton Lodge. And Ron ended up sharing my room because they had a house on the property that was overrun with mice. So Ron, I'm just started to work for Ron a few months before, and now he's my roommate. And Ron likes to snore. Like it sounds like he's starting a chainsaw all night, but it was fun. I was still able to sleep. And we get up and we go out, and it was super cold that day. And I catch like an 18-inch walleye, and he's like, "That's great, Mitch. Now just don't catch the next one." And of course, I caught the next one, and it turned out to be the only 2 fish that we caught. And I had to go to a family event or something. So I said, "Ron, can we take a picture?" And so we go. I still have the photo. We have a great picture of Ron holding my 2 fish and me standing next to him. So
that sounds spot on for everything that I know about Ron. Great guy.
I'll provide that photo for you. You can use it to promote the podcast.
Sounds good. And I'll use it to tease Ron next time I see him.
Yeah, perfect. He won't remember. He only remembers, the big wins. And that's what all the great ones do. Jack Nicklaus doesn't remember missing putts to lose tournaments. He only remembers winning the majors. So
absolutely.
Ron's like that too.
All right, Mitch, we really appreciate your time. Great conversation. Hopefully we get a chance to do some hunting or fishing together sometime in the future.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you're in Minnesota, please look me up. We'll get all the sheriff folks together. We'll go for a boat cruise on Lake Minnetonka.
Sounds good to me, buddy.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for checking out the Meatgistics podcast. To shop everything but the meat, head on over to waltons.com. To get your meat processing questions answered by experts and enthusiasts alike, head on over to our online community at meatgistics.com. Waltons, everything but the meat.